Okay, we are starting our first virtual log cabin sewing class with Joan Trim and Chris Rhodes. The first thing you need to do is set your strips out in length order. I always go smallest to largest. The brightly colored ones that you see, Joanie, will be yellow, and the black ones in the back will be your light colors. I forgot to say that your strips will be thinner than mine. I think yours will be about 2.5 inches. I'm doing what's called an offset log cabin. Some of my strips, my logs, are longer than others. I am making this, and it's all log cabin. Okay, now's the time. You're going to take your 18-inch square. Mine will be a different size. Take it, fold it in quarters, and that's so you can find the middle of your batting square. I usually stick a pin in the middle, but you can just eyeball it if you want to. So find the middle of your batting square. Okay, now in the middle of your square, put down one of your squares, put them right sides together in the middle. Now, it's really important to get these two the right size. So right sides together in the middle. So you have your right sides together in the middle, and now we're going to talk about sewing. So if you would have a 1/4-inch foot, all your quilting seams should be a 1/4 inch. But what I did with the girls, the granddaughters, was we didn't have a 1/4-inch foot. So what I do is sew the width of my foot. I always run the side of my foot along the side of the fabric to sew the seam. So I start, doesn't matter. You want to make sure that you have, you want to make sure that you have it, line it up so the foot is alongside the seam. If you had a 1/4-inch foot, you could put it on and get a 1/4-inch seam perfect. But this is the way we do it at our house. And so you put the foot down, and then you're going to start sewing along. Make sure your foot is right along the raw edge, and so right off the batting. I've sewn that the seam. You open it up and finger press it open. You don't press it with the, do not press it with the iron, just finger press it open. So now you're going to put on your next log. Now, my blacks will be the same as your whites, and all my batiks, my fancy prints, will be the same as your yellows. So you start. Now, I am looking at mine, and I'm going to put it this way. And then I'm going to find the, okay, here we go. Now we have the two squares sewn together, and you can see your block in the background on my iPad. You find the log that is the same size as the two sewn together. You put this log on top of the two you sewn together and square them up neatly. And then you're going to take them to the sewing machine. So now I'm at the sewing machine. I have right sides together. I put my foot, remember we run it right along the raw edge, and then I will sew right down the edge to right off the batting, not too far. Remember, right along the edge, the raw edge, and I'm always telling the girls, make sure you don't jackrabbit, but you want to make sure that those are right even together. So right off. Just a little bit off the batting and stop. If you look at this, I didn't do a very good job. I'm right on the edge and then I moved over. It's a little bit, and that little bit of difference can make a difference. So can make your quilt a little wonky. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to sew that seam again, and I'm going to use both my hands. It's hard to sew and video at the same time. So you can see that I went back and I sewed that seam, and I have to take the first seam out. And it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but if you do that, you've got what? I don't know. Every time it ends up making your quilt square wonky. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to take that seam out and I'll be back in a minute. So you can see I redid that seam, and you flip that open and you finger press it. So I basically have, my square is looking like right here. So it's time to add the next log. That would be this one right here. So you put right sides together, take it to the sewing machine, sew a 1/4 inch foot, open it up, finger press it open. Time to add the next one, which would be right there. So mine will be this one. And I want to show you something. I'm going to kind of zoom in here. If you look, when I lay this down, I have a little bit, you can see the seams aren't even right here. So I'm going to put my log even with these two, and then I'm going to just sew it. And I sew along the raw edge. So I want you to see those aren't even. So I'm going to try to even them up. I have two that are even. So I bring this over even with this, leave this little piece out, and then sew along the raw edge. You can see I'm sewing along the raw edge. I'm leaving that little bit that sticks out. You might not have that problem. So I'm going to go all the way down the seam, my foot on the raw edge. Okay, I've sewn on this log. I open it up. I finger press it down. Now I'm going to do this edge, which would be right here. So I sewed down my dark log. I open it up. I finger press. Now I'm going to do this log. Put it up. Sew it down. So now on mine we're about right to here, but I'm going to go over it just on this since you know the process. It's right sides together, stitch a seam, finger press it open, add the next log, right sides together, stitch the seam, finger press it open. Now we're going to do color, color, white, white, color, color, white, white, color, color. Then you'll have your square. So I'm going to do it again. Okay, we put the two squares together, right sides together, stitch the seam, finger pressed it open. We found the piece that's the same size as these. Because your seam size, you might not have a 1/4 inch foot. This might be a little bit bigger, but don't worry about it. Put it on. This piece onto this, right sides together, stitch the seam, open it out, finger press it down. Then you add a color. This piece would be on here, right sides together, stitch the seam, open it out, finger press it, turn, add this log. This would be right sides together, stitch the seam, open it up, finger press it. Then you're going to go over here. White, white, color, color, white, white, color, color. Okay? So now you're going to make 12 of these squares. Right sides together, stitch, finger press it out. 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 And you'll notice you're going to add 2 light logs, 2 dark logs, 2 light logs, 2 dark logs. You'll make 12 of those. When you get all 12 done, I will show you how to square them up and put them together. Okay? Now,